If you're having communication problems in your relationship and you're struggling to get your point across to the other person, and they're likewise having difficulties understanding and comprehending you or even refusing, and you just wish that other person would listen to your perspective, I want to talk about what it means to flip the script. If you've ever seen the At Whatever podcast, you may recall a scene in which the host replies to one of the feminists. The feminist says to the host, "All men want one thing, all they want is pussy." And then the host says, "Maybe that's all you have to offer." That is a complete flip of the script. The Russia-Ukraine conflict that has been escalating since 2014. Understanding the Russian side isn't very difficult. It's very simple. But for some reason, many leftists in the West have a very difficult time comprehending the Russian side. If you recall, when Obama was president of the United States, he said, "The Russians have their own set of lawyers." And when he said they have their own set of lawyers, he meant that the Russians have their own side of the story. And it's vastly different to the Western narrative. And also, if you read comment sections under Facebook Reels or TikTok in regard to a post suggesting that a woman who partakes in OnlyFans will not be valued, and then you have certain types of women replying to these comments, just outright dismissing or deflecting the argument altogether. So what do all these things have in common? Behind each of these narratives is someone's identity. Someone has attached their identity to these narratives, and so they sit with these narratives. Flipping the script means changing the narrative. And the reason people do not want to hear an opposing or alternative narrative is because these people, it doesn't matter what side of the story you're on, you've attached your identity to that narrative. And when that narrative is challenged, it feels like you are being existentially threatened. Because if the narrative is challenged and extinguished, then you along with it will probably die. Poof, go up into flames. That's what it feels like when you are rejected for asking for a girl to hang out with you or after a breakup. You feel like you're curling up inside and just dying and your whole stomach just wants to curl up. When you see some political argument taking place, you're either on one side or another, sometimes neutral if you're fortunate enough to be in this space, but even neutral people can be attacked as well. And so the only real way to get someone else to listen or even partake in your own ideas and explore them with you is that you need to put your own step forward first and explore the narrative of the other side. Understand that those stories that person is telling themselves, it's not just political, it's self-fulfilling prophecies. I am a bad person. I am unworthy of love. And that's why they attract unhealthy partners and they partake in promiscuous and degenerate relationships. If you can just accept that there's more to the story, lower your own guard, detach your identity away from the narrative in which you've been sitting in, and explore the narrative of the other person, and validate and understand where the other person is coming from, where they're actually coming from, not the superficial surface level stuff like OnlyFans content creators, or men only want one thing, or women can only offer this one thing, or someone in the relationship is the table, or that person's a narcissist, or an avoidant anxious attachment style. I'm not dismissing that some of these experiences are real, or I'm not denying your experienced reality. But what I am saying is enter into someone else's and validate them, understand them. And this way, they might be interested in exploring yours. If not, it's just because that they still sit and attach themselves to their own identity. They still sit within their own narrative. But if you can explore theirs, then at least you have the upper hand because now you can weigh a lot more decisions. You have a lot more pros and cons to weigh. You have a lot more experience and knowledge. You can have a lot more foresight. It's like building an engine. Imagine discovering more pieces to the engine. One of the most powerful factors when it comes to the making of decisions is ignorance or the withholding of information. Ignorance is kind of more like the obliviousness, which is not a good place to be. But if you do know something and if you withhold information, this is a huge contributor in the decision-making process. For example, if you were going to listen to someone else's side, they don't know if you're going to attack them or be on their side if you let them share their world with you. If you were to tell them that you will punish them after you let them share, then they're less likely to share. But if you withhold that information, they're more likely to share. This includes more subconscious cues, verbal tones, and facial expressions. The withholding of information is very impactful. And this doesn't mean to say that you will attack and disintegrate the other person's narrative. But what it does mean is that you will challenge it in a constructive way. And you will let that other person think for themselves on their own terms. And if they decide to return to you and understand you, they will do so on their own accord. If she's not answering her calls or texts, she will come back to you on her own accord. You can't make her do anything else. If she believes that abortions are okay, she has to be in a position where she's open to hearing alternative suggestions. You see, the reason why certain people don't like hearing certain things is because they're feeling personally attacked, when it is in fact simply just the narrative in which they've attached their identity to. And they can't separate themselves from that because they're so immersed in that narrative. And if one person is rejecting what you say, then it's not the superficial thing that they're necessarily rejecting. It's somewhere deep down, they're feeling rejected somewhere else. If you fail to take out the trash when you've been asked like 2 times, it's not that the trash is the problem. It's that you didn't listen is the problem. And you not listening made that other person feel worthless. You see where I'm getting at? We just go deep, 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 deeper and deeper and deeper